You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Play call.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show with the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers, so let's get started with Garrett, I think.
Ryan, I just had an epiphany for the game that's going to take place on Friday night. So, Brazil is the mecca of soccer, and I'm willing to bet that every single person in that stadium has kicked a soccer ball before. So, why doesn't Goody have tryouts after the game for anybody that's in the stadium that thinks that they can kick a football through the goalpost and just get it all over in one fell swoop? You got to find somebody that's going to be legitimately really good at it. So why not just have tryouts in the place where people are used to kicking a football? I'm out.
Just open tryouts, man. Why not? I don't see what the harm could possibly be. I think the only thing that would probably suck is you're going to have people that are really, really good, and then you're going to end up looking at it going, are we really doing this? He's never done this before. Maybe he just crushed like 4 50-yarders in a row, and it was just kind of a fluke, and he's never... Are we doing this? I don't know. The scary part is you would find somebody, I guess. That's... Now we're kind of committed, because otherwise, why did we do this? I don't know. Either way, it would be a fun exercise. Just be like, let's see what you guys can do. Watch them just crush some field goals.
Hey, Ryan, it's Craig from Indiana.
Hey.
I was a little curious if you could look into Xavier McKinney's grades against the Eagles. So he would have faced them several times the last few years. And I know there's some different players, but they have a couple of the receivers have been around for a couple of years anyway. So I was curious how he does against them and against just the team as a whole, because I know obviously a lot of his stuff is also against the run. Even given those grades, do you think that's any kind of indication how he might be, given he's now in the Packer defense, which I know is obviously completely new team and players and all that stuff? Then I was going to go ahead and give a prediction for the game. I think it'll be 28-17 with the Packers winning. So looking forward, can't wait for the game to get going, man. It seems like it's been forever. And I think that's all I had. I kept thinking there was a third thing, but if I remember it, I'll call you back. But again, keep up the good work. Appreciate that. And we'll talk soon, Nails. Bye.
Ay. In 2020 and 2022, McKinney played only a handful of games. Interestingly enough, he never played the Eagles in either of those 2 years. He played 6 games in 2020. He did not play the Eagles. In 2022, he played 3, 6, 9 games, didn't play the Eagles. He actually played the Packers, but not the Eagles. Again, this is interesting because they're rivals, so they play at least twice a year. Well, not at least. It's not like the Giants are going to the playoffs. In 2021 and 2023, he did face them twice, and they were both very similar. So in 2021, or in both cases, they had one okay game and one really, really, really good game. So in 2021, in week 16, he faced Philadelphia, had about a 60 grade, 59.5, 59.7 coverage, about as flat, even as you could possibly get. His other game, week 12, 92.2 grade, 71 run defense, 84 tackling, and 91 coverage. He had a pick and a pass breakup. And he only had 5 interceptions and 4 pass breakups. And so, 20% of his interceptions, 25% of his pass breakups came in that one game. Even more crazy was 2023, similar situation. That was his second best game of that season, by the way. Similar situation here. Philadelphia in week 16, 61 grade, 58 coverage, almost exactly even. His other game was his best game of the season, week 18, 95.3 PFF grade, 81.6 tackling, 96 coverage grade. He had 3 interceptions that season. 2 of them came in that Eagles game. He had 3 pass breakups in that season. He had 1 pass breakup in that game. He allowed a 2.8 passer rating when targeted. So yeah, that is a good observation. I mean, there's a lot of familiarity there with the players, with the coaches, with the scheme. I understand that they're changing some things, but it makes sense that there is some familiarity there, which is good. Probably got a little bit of his insights into this game, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, he's never been bad against the Eagles. He's played 4 times. 2 of them were perfectly average. 2 of them were holy crap. He decimated that team. Be nice if we can get that the first time around. So, let's see. So it was the second time in 2023. It was let's see which time it was here. Philadelphia. It was the first time in 2021. So there's no the first time he's averaged. It doesn't. We'll see. Hopefully that continues and he at least doesn't have a bad day. That was a good observation, though. I hadn't really thought about the fact that they had played each other a bunch. All right, now that I'm all over the place, Garrett's back. What's going on, Garrett?
Go, Pedro, go.
Yeah, right.
My question for Pedro is this, Ryan.
Okay.
If Goody doesn't hold kicking tryouts, maybe Pedro can do a setup in the parking lot and just take a bunch of names of guys who potentially could, kick 50 yards or more. Mm-hmm. And then he can submit those to Goody. Yeah. And he can become Brazil's scout for shooting contest. Just a thought. Go, Pedro, go.
Go, Pedro, go. I love that, man. I gotta get linked up with Pedro. I know Twitter is off the board now. That's not an option. Usually that's an easy way to kind of send some videos or pictures or whatever. But there's always text messages, assuming he doesn't have to pay an arm and a leg for that. Anyways, we got to make sure Pedro is like the official. A lot of people have things being sent out from Brazilians. We got to get Pedro to be our guy, the Packernet guy. I'm super excited for this game for him. I can't imagine how excited he is right now just thinking about being able to go to that game. But it is also funny because you hear people's accents, from the press conferences from when the Packers arrived and everything, and of course, because it's a Brazilian accent, I hear somebody talking like, bro, is that Pedro? Because that's just how they sound, I guess. We got a bunch of Thomas Austin coming up, so I hope you all are prepared today. Today is going to be the Garrett and Thomas Austin show for the most part. So buckle up if you're new here. Thomas Austin, sometimes a little bit different, so you got to be on your toes with the old Thomas Austin.
Ryan, how's it going?
What's
Was
up,
listening to the episode, people calling you talking about kind of like a format for your show about how you don't really want one.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I live by that mode, to be honest. I don't know if you've given my terrible show to listen to.
I did.
If you haven't, don't worry about
recently.
it.
I apologize.
Do not make it. I don't think you would, but still, just don't. Unless you want to, which I can't stop you if you're your own person.
Thomas Austin Show. Check it out.
There are times to where I feel like I do a voice on there, but it's intentional most of the time. If you could, the reason why I called this is besides the point. As always, I talk about something, give you different questions, so here you go. If you could have any guest, I know you're not big on guests.
Sure.
I know you're not. But if you could, currently, day of September 4th, 2024, if you could have any guest appear on the show, you don't have to pay them anything, they agree to it, they're just there to be a guest, who would it be and why? And how long do you think that they could handle one of your rants before they're like, oh, I made a mistake, I got to get out of here quick?
Mm-hmm.
All right, bye.
I mean, my mind immediately goes to like the biggest figures, you know? I mean, everybody could be mad at me, but like Donald Trump or something, only because everybody has to watch that now. You know, I mean, you could say the same about Kamala Harris. Either way, I mean, just who are like the biggest possible names in the universe where people that aren't even football fans, much less Packer fans, are like, I got to check that out, see what was said. But then there's a question of like, do you want to have a conversation with the person? I don't know. Politicians are bad because everything seems fake. You know, it's hard to break through that wall of like, okay, that was a good political answer, but like I'm trying to like talk to. Is there somebody in there I can talk to? That'd be great. Any guest in the world. I mean, there's really easy answers like Jordan Love. That would be super cool. He seems pretty laid back too. Like that's the other thing you got to consider is personality conflicts. Even Rodgers, I think, would be a good one because he's kind of got that. As long as he's not on his guard, you know, if he sees you as an adversary, that could be kind of a problem because he's just going to freaking dunk on me 24/7, and I'm not going to appreciate it a ton. But like if it's just kind of a laid back conversation, he's pretty good at that. Be nice. That's a lot of football players are that way. Like they just kind of want to hang back and just do whatever and not get all serious about stuff. So that'd be kind of cool. I don't know, man. I really don't. Could go the other direction and say get somebody like from The Office, you know. I don't know who exactly. I mean, obviously you got the Packer fan in Kevin, but I don't know. I understand it would be beneficial. I just you think about it and be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool though? It's like I like what they do over there. I just watch what they do. I don't need anything from them personally, you know? Like what do I want to talk to them? But that's the thing about, and I don't want to be overly broad, but like the introvert thing is I have nothing that I desire to know about you or think about you or anything. Like I have no idea what to say. You could be okay. Aaron Rodgers is here. What would you ask him? What's up, dude? How you doing? I don't know where to go beyond that. Like maybe like if he was willing, we could super dig into some questions. It would have. That's the thing. Let me put it this way. If we're actually going to have a conversation, it has to be about things that I really care about. So it's either like Gutekunst would be fantastic if he would be willing to be honest, which I don't think he would be. But if I can get Gutekunst full honesty, that would maybe be my favorite. But I couldn't get that. Not just because I couldn't get Gutekunst, but just to get him to be completely honest about everything. That would be great. Just because I actually have interest in understanding like, what the heck was going on. Like, I speculated a lot, like every day during the Aaron Rodgers, not sagas that went on. Just tell me all the stuff. That or possibly food. I had Malcolm Reed on. That was cool. I had to kind of pivot to football a little bit, but he's just a big barbecue guy, and I was able to get him on the show. And that got me excited because I just got to talk barbecue and talk to like a really talented professional barbecue guy about barbecue stuff. But I care about that stuff, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not trying to sound like a jerk. I don't have a part of my brain that's like, ooh, I want to know these things. Like, tell me about your personal life. Tell me about your family. Tell me about like your dreams and desires. Like, I mean, I could do it. I don't want to know. I just like watching the guy play football. I don't know. I don't really. want to be his friend or anything necessarily. I just trying to watch the football game. So that's the best I can do in giving you an answer, Thomas Austin. I would say Brian Gutekunst, if he would be honest. If it's about ratings, I would like to get a major political figure, probably, or I guess celebrity, whoever is like the biggest. Like as soon as they set foot anywhere, the whole world has to know about it and report about it. Get them on, just for the sake of views. And it would be funny because you can kind of just screw with them a little bit. It's almost like talking to a robot. Because they have all these canned answers and they have to act a certain way, so you can kind of just do and say whatever you want. And, again, it would never happen again and they'd be pissed at you, and who knows what happens if they actually become president. They could try to ruin your life or something if they care that much, which they wouldn't. But it would be kind of funny a little bit. Like, bro, tell me why the Bears are trash. And just see what happens, just push a button and see what happens. I think that'd be funny. Getting close to break time, but we have a lot of calls, and I need to pick up the pace. Thomas Austin, part 2, what's up?
Hey. I'm continuing listening.
Uh-oh.
You know how I do this sometimes, where it's a live call in, where I listen to the episode call immediately when I have a thought. I don't want to hear you be down on yourself, and I don't necessarily think that you were. It's just you're saying, how you're not necessarily, like, you don't need qualifications to do this, and right. That a lot of people have a podcast, and you have a pretty decent following. So you're doing something right. You have something that gravitates people to listen to, whether it be, the content, the passion, your voice, just everything that you put together. I don't want to hear you ever downplay yourself about not being qualified or not being, I don't know the word to put in here. It filled me up with anger.
I'm sorry.
Or knock yourself. You are a very dedicated, hardworking person when it comes to this.
Thank you very much.
A lot of people, myself included, struggle to get out an episode of anything a month, and you're doing it dang near daily.
Yep.
That's impressive. That's remarkable. And you do.
I'm annoyed that you said dang near, because it's true. I have been slacking because I put too much on my plate. Honestly, I'm busy. Never mind. We don't need to go down that road, but I need to just get back to just podcast. Just get it out. Just do the podcast. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. Don't build something else. Don't do anything else. Do the podcast.
Pretty much solamente. By yourself. No, I'm not here for that negativity. Once again,
Apologize.
I don't even think that you were saying it in that manner, but that's how it came off to me. And I got to let you know, knock it off. You're great. You're wonderful. If there was one thing that you could improve upon the podcast or upon your presentation, what would it be, though? I'd love to hear it. Bye.
Oh, boy. Well, I appreciate the kind words, Thomas. I do. And I more or less stand by what I said in that I guess I meant it more stylistically. I don't have any idea why people tune in, other than like it's just a wired thing. Like I just got done talking about how I don't care about these. There's just a weird, unique way that my brain works, and it's really bad at a lot of things, but it tends to kind of work in this environment. I guess that's the best I can say about that. Improvements. I don't know. I definitely wish. I think it works to my benefit. Being, I hate to just throw around ADD because everybody's ADD or whatever, but there is a really difficult time just kind of staying focused. And again, that works on the podcast, going off on these tangents and rants and just kind of running all over the place. It's kind of the way the show Derailed works. We're kind of just waiting for that moment for something to just trigger, and then we go off and running. I think those end up being my better podcasts, where I have a general structure and then something ticks me off and I just go off. And that's why people hang out. They're just kind of, it's like a car race where people are just waiting for the crash to happen. But it also can be a very serious problem for me, especially lately. I don't know what my problem is lately, staying organized and focused. If anybody would like to step up and be an assistant in some kind of a way, that would be great. just to, in some way, or there's almost just too much. And I don't know how to process it all, and I try to process everything, and it's just, it's unnecessary. You know, I used to, and this is when the podcast was not doing the best. I cared. I don't want to say I didn't care, but I got complacent to the point where I would just come downstairs. I wouldn't look at anything. I would push record. I had no idea what was going on. Push record, just start talking and find my way through it. And again, that wasn't the best, but now I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like I need every possible data point that could possibly ever exist anywhere. I have to scrape all of Twitter over the last 24 hours. I have to go to multiple news sites. I have to go to YouTube and scrape everything off of YouTube and find out everything that was said. And then I'm sitting here and it's like I have mountains of data where I used to just need like one little data point. I could talk for an hour. Now it's becoming the opposite where I have so much information I don't know what to do with it. So, I don't know. I guess figure out how to organize things a little bit better would be nice. And just record the freaking podcast and stop trying to I don't overthink stuff, just overthinking stuff. Why don't we take our first break? We'll come back and hear from Garrett in Southern Illinois. Kick off the 2024 football season with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's the easiest way to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. This September, get automatic win every week by picking Caleb Williams to get just 1 passing yard. That's right, 4 weeks of free wins, but only if you jump on it before September ends. And don't forget, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks even has injury insurance, so if your player leaves the game early, you're still in the game. I've been loving Prize Picks, my go-to for simple, fast, and fun fantasy action. When my picks hit, I get paid in as little as 15 minutes. Download Prize Picks now and use code PACKDADDY to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code PACKDADDY for $50 guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Remember, Prize Picks is a skill-based fantasy game, making your lineups just got a whole lot more exciting. U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
Brian, I hope the Eagles enjoy the peanuts on their flight down to Brazil because that'll be the last safe meal they have. Do you think that gas station sushi is questionable. Just wait until they get their room service food brought to them. That will be questionable. Man, when you slam a city that you're getting ready to play in, everybody's going to be having their one shot at this team. And the food that they get brought to them, man, I hope they have the Waterboy taste their food first, because I wouldn't want to eat it. I'm out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, man. I don't really know. Again, it was kind of cool for me to hear Pedro talk about it. Not, obviously, it's not a good thing to have people slamming Brazil and the city and all that kind of stuff. But it sets up nicely for a fan base that is desperate to watch them kick the living crap out of the Eagles. And man, would it be the ultimate cherry on top if 95% of that stadium was just ravenously on the side of the Packers, partially because of just Packers fandom, partially just because they're a ravenous group of fans anyways, and that's how they act, and partially because they, heard word about the Eagles talking trash about Brazilians, whatever, and I don't even care if that's 95% overblown and untrue. How it's like the whole telephone thing. It starts off with like, I don't know, I'm just not sure how it goes, I'm going to stay in my room, to he said we're all a bunch of freaking murderers and he hates us and he can't wait to get out of here. Like, however that happens, I don't know. But if it just so happens that they, like I said, if they happen to get booed when they come out, that is going to be the greatest. It's going to be hard to top that this season. And then you just got to follow it up with a win. But still, that's wild. Obviously, and again, the other thing too is one of the worst things that could happen for everybody involved would be if there was an incident. If somebody was mugged, attacked, robbed, assaulted in any kind of way, it's horrible, obviously, for the players. It's horrible for Brazilians who have been talking this whole time about it's not that bad, like you're making up stuff. So obviously, you wouldn't want, even though it would be sort of self-fulfilling prophecy because people are pissed at the Eagles, so somebody does something, and then it's like, well, see, I was right, whatever. I'm just, hopefully that doesn't happen, whether that be on the streets or even on the field. If somebody were to throw something, which again would be somewhat karmic justice, if that's a phrase, because of the Eagles fans and how they treat people. But I'm just saying, booing is, let's just leave it at that, at the booing, and hope the Packers win the game. Because shame on the Eagles, you know what I'm saying? Again, am I kind of overblowing the issue on purpose? Yeah. Is that the wrong thing to do? Probably. But it would be funny and dope. But listen, I've been saying Brazil is Packers country, right? And they're coming in and they're like, no, it's all about this. I don't want another team to claim Brazil. I love Brazil for a lot of reasons. Their food is amazing, first of all. Brazilian steakhouse, are you freaking kidding me? It's the greatest thing on earth. And it's semi-authentic. When I had, first of all, they put lime on everything, and I never tried that before. It was amazing. They had pork belly. It was the first time me and my son had pork belly. Now we're both obsessed. It's my son's favorite food. Had picanha for the first time like several months ago. I'm ordering it. It should be here tonight, I hope. Have it thawed and ready to cook for tomorrow. Experience that because of the Brazil. It's like a shared culture where it's like, we don't do the same things, but like, hey, you ever put like fire on meat? It's dope. Like, yes, I do put fire on meat. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I don't know. It just feels like there's and then again, like, why are there such big football fans in Brazil? Like, it's so random because we're just like, it's just the same. I don't know what it is. There's a shared, I don't want to say heritage, but there's a DNA strand that just connects Americans and Brazilians, where it's just like Brazilians watch football and they're like, that's freaking awesome, right? You got like people from Uruguay or whatever looking at like, I don't know, that's stupid, I like soccer. And Brazilians are like, bro, look at that, that's freaking awesome. And you know what? They're Packer fans. I don't want to hear any bull crap about, well, the Patriots or the Cowboys or the freaking Eagles. No. That's Packers country. It has to stay Packers country. I don't want the Eagles to go there and they win and a bunch of people convert to Eagles fans. And it's like, well, they're green and we like green, like because of Brazil and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll all be Eagles. No, screw you. Packers country. Always and forever. All right. Moving on. Thomas Austin again.
I heard the word Tommy gun being said 3 times.
Yeah.
And whenever any sort of mention of my name comes in threes, I show up. Kind of like,
what is that?
With that being said, I mean...
Candyman, right? Yeah, Candyman.
I just see, the Packernet crew and friends kind of rule
Candyman.
a mafia-esque.
By the way, I did that when I was like 5 years old. I watched the movie Candyman, 4 or 5. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, going downstairs, looking in the mirror. I said Candyman once, and I ran back to my bed. I don't know why I did that. I had so many nightmares when I was a kid. I watched a lot of horror movies. Anyway, sorry, Thomas.
Type landscape across, the NFC area, territory.
Yeah.
That's, Wisconsin, Michigan. The first step is we take that little landmass from Michigan. That's your first step.
That's true. That is the first step,
mafia
I think.
Leaders. And then from there, you go down to the second home in the second city. Take that over.
City, right?
Like I said, it's already second home, as is.
By the way, there is a big mafia connection to, like, northern Wisconsin. It's kind of crazy. If you go up there, there's tons of stuff.
And then Minnesota, we just burn, right?
Who's going to burn?
That's what you guys can do. Who needs Minnesota?
Oh, yeah.
Just forget that it's there. Maybe take over Mall of America just to have that.
Yep.
Oh, no, man.
It's just going to be Mall of America and then lakes. So, like, you can go fishing, you can go hunting, or you can go to the Mall of America. That's all that exists there. I think that sounds dope. I would appreciate Minnesota a lot more if that was the case.
It feels good. Packers in 2 days? I'm shaking. I'm ready. Eagles suck. Philadelphia sucks. Pennsylvania sucks. The only good thing that has ever come out remotely good from that area is Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky's
and with that being said, what's your favorite Rocky film?
So I opened my mouth about Rocky's good. It is good. I don't even think I've seen all of them. I don't think, but I'm just gonna be safe and say the first Rocky. Partially because I know I've seen it and I know I liked it. I couldn't really tell you much beyond that, but it is hard to beat the original, the first one, unless we're talking Terminator. Usually the first one's the best. There's also probably some debate about The Godfather, which I think is fair. It's really incredible how, usually there's a big drop off from 1 to 2, and if there is a 3, 2 to 3, it's like, no, these are just all good movies. Yeah, as far as the mafia thing goes, I don't know much about that life. I don't know if we'd have the firepower to pull that off, but I do agree. I got to look into that. That's one of those robot things. How did Michigan ever get that plot of land up there? I have no idea how that even works. And I don't want Chicago. In fact, I forgot who had even proposed it, but it was like, what if we just made like Milwaukee and Chicago like its own state, and you guys could just have that and be good? And Kenosha, Racine, Gurnee, all the way down, was it Zion? Just that's a state. Just call it, I don't know, freaking Chicago or Milwaukee. I don't care. Tommy Austin again.
Hello, Ryan.
Hi.
So this is a predictions call here. 5 predictions for the Packers-Eagles game at their, international home base of Brazil. All right, so here it goes. Number 1, I predict, let me put it this way. I predict that the defense is going to have a total of 3 sacks.
Okay.
I think that there's not going to be a single missed field goal for either team.
Okay.
I predict that the receiver who goes off this game is Watson.
Okay.
Just because I feel like this is the first I shouldn't just do the prediction. Anyway, I feel like it's going to be him. You can look back at the years past of him not being there, him missing that first one. I feel like this is going to be the first splash game that he's going to have to start off the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, everybody, I'll call in each and every single week with a new prediction for that one of who's going to be the receiver.
Okay.
And it might be tight end. It might be halfback. We don't know. But we're going to go as you go on. Anyway, where was I? I predict that Hurts is going to have more passing yards, but Love is going to have more passing touchdowns.
Okay.
And with that being said, my next prediction is I think Josh Jacobs is going to outperform Saquon.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering if that's who the Eagles have. I'm not looking at the roster. I don't care about the Eagles. They're not my team. They suck. All right. Bye.
All right, Tom, I got to ask you a favor. If you wouldn't mind, you're going to have to track that on your own because I'm not going to write that down anywhere. But I appreciate that, and I do want to circle back to that. Let me know how that does. I've already talked about the breakout receiver. I think that's why you brought it up. No missed field goals. I'm not touching that. I don't even like talking about it. It just makes me nervous. What else did you... Oh, the passing yards. I could see that. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like what would determine that in my head. I mean, again, Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. They got some good wide receivers. If you look at the defenses, I want to believe we have better defense in general. Certainly corners. Again, they're kind of in a tight spot with corners. I don't know. I'll just leave that to you. I do agree. Again, it's tough because it's like, what are the defenses? Not just the Packers, but even the Eagles. Is that still the team that struggles to stop the run, or is it, again, you look at the defensive talent they have, which especially up front they have quite a bit, and you think that's going to be tough to run against? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm gonna agree with you on that, just because I've talked such a big game, and I know exactly what's going to happen now. Saquon is going to go off. And there's going to be calls, and there's going to be a bunch of listeners that don't call but are certainly thinking it. That freaking idiot talked about Saquon. Oh, he's not that good. He's not that good. Oh, Josh Jacobs is better. Blah, 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 blah. Really? Freaking 250 yards and 3 touchdowns? You know what I mean? Like, that has to happen just because I ran my mouth, and that's how it goes. I'm going to stand by what I said, too, which is going to make it worse. All right, Garrett, what's going on?
Brian, I'm going to do Tucker Bob one better on a video AI-generated intro song / video, and it'll be the A-Team. Okay?
Yep.
You can be Hannibal. Clayton can obviously be a white version of Mr. T with the faux, mohawk.
Okay.
He can put all his chains on and stuff.
Okay.
Anyways, you got a black Astro van with the red stripe.
Yes.
To be the A-Team's, cruiser.
Yep.
But instead of being the A-Team, it's the G-Team, obviously.
There you go.
So
I want to
put
generate
that together.
The
I want to see how that turns out. I'm out.
Make a quick note because I don't want to have to pause what I'm doing right now. But that's one of those things. I'll throw it on social media, and 2 people will know what the heck that's all about. Thomas Austin, it's back to you, my friend.
I gotta say that the devil works hard, but random sports outlets work a lot harder. And what I mean by that is the amount of times where I've seen, and everybody's seen the whole Packers potential trade, and instead of it being like, oh wow, there's talks that there's, a trade in actual conversation, it's, man, the Packers could trade this player away. Wouldn't that be fun, tee-hee? And I was thinking in my head, the way that it goes with the Packers and the receivers right now is that if everybody can remain on an upward trend of how good they are, what would be the most that you could get for Christian Watson? What would be the most that you could get for Dobbs? What's the most that you could get for Wicks, for Reed, for Melton? And I throw Melton in there because I have another question on top of that is if he stays with the team, because the Packers could trade Melton, and honestly, they could probably get something out of it. Not like a 6th round, but or maybe like, just some depth or something. Who's going to have more receptions? Who's going to have more yards between Tucker Kraft and Bo Melton? And you might be thinking to yourself, well, they're two different players, two different positions. Why bring those two up? Because I'm just curious, because it seems to me that when it comes down to it, when it comes to the passing game, Musgrave has the tight end role locked down. And Tucker Kraft, he's a 3rd rounder, and so you know how that tends to work out.
Sure.
But just curious between those two players, who's going to be more proactive on the Packers? I'll call back in a little bit. You asked for questions.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You asked for calls.
That's fine. No,
I'm going to give you some.
You did too. There's quite a few. I think there might have been 2 questions in there, but I'm going to pretend it was just the one because the other one I think would be too hard to think of anyways. Between Kraft and Bo Melton, I'm going pretty heavily Kraft. I think Bo Melton is all the way down the depth chart. I don't think we see him unless there are injuries. I think Tucker Kraft, I know he is injured currently, which we'll see if he plays week 1 or not. I do think he's going to play a relatively large role, and by that I just mean he's going to be out on the field pretty regularly. How often is he going to be the target? I don't know, but more often than probably Bo Melton would be my guess. But if guys start going down, and let's just say if Bo Melton and Tucker Kraft are on the field about the same amount of time, I would probably lean more Bo Melton. But yeah, I've been pushing the Musgrave agenda for a while. I don't know that Tucker Kraft isn't going to be the guy instead of Musgrave as far as tight ends go. I mean, there's certainly an appeal there. It's kind of, in my mind, like Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, or pick any of the other wide receivers, where, Christian's more of the big play guy, but are we talking receptions? Are we talking, what are we exactly talking about here? I think Tucker could be more of a regular target. He's certainly an appealing guy as far as like turning and running. That's the scariest thing ever when he catches a pass and turns upfield. He is a freaking bull. Whereas Musgrave is more of, in my mind, an idea. It's the theory behind it. It's like how cool it could be if everything actually worked. Kind of like Christian. Like if everything could just click and he could stay healthy, it would be just unbelievable. But we have yet to fully see that actually happen, like on a consistent game-to-game basis. I think Kraft actually is more of a safe bet, whereas Musgrave is more of a high ceiling kind of a deal, in my mind anyways. But between Bo and Kraft, that's a hard Bo for me. All right, let's take another break. We'll come back. We got pretty much all Thomas Austin with a Trucker Bob mixed in. We'll see if we get to it. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
In a perfect world.
Yeah. That's right.
Where the Packers are healthy all year long.
Yeah.
What honestly could stop them from winning out?
Mm-hmm.
If you had a completely healthy Packers team that kept being healthy week after week after week, which is, wishful thinking. In a perfect world, that'd be wonderful, but we don't live in a perfect world, and a lot of times you have to deal with what's given to you. But what flaws are there for the Packers right now as it stands? Right now, if Josh Jacobs goes down, the rushing game's gone. It's kaput. But if he's healthy all year long, if you get, someone to come back to be a RB2, what's stopping them? What currently would cause the Packers to lose? I'm going to keep repeating myself.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to stop you. I had the answer after about 10 seconds into your call. There's 2 things, themselves and the 49ers. That's what can stop the Packers. And it's not because the 49ers are a better team. They just can't freaking get over that hump, and I don't know why. And I know it's not fair to say can't. I did a whole episode on, the record is not as slanted as you think. The Packers have beat the 49ers and whatnot, but there's just certain matchups that are tough. I don't know if it's a Matt LaFleur and Shanahan thing where, Shanahan's just got a little bit of an edge on him, knows how to play him. I don't know. But honestly, listen, I'm all in on this Packers team. I'm starting to get scared. There's a part of me that's, I'm watching all the, I shouldn't even talk about it because I don't need you guys to get, be excited. Don't go down the path I'm going on, but it's a podcast. That's what I do. I talk about my thoughts and my feelings. This is my therapy. I'm watching, the intros and I see Jordan Love coming out of the tunnel and I just think, bro, what if he's just bad though? Like, what if like they suck and Jordan throws like a couple picks and everything and it's like, holy crap, man. Not that it's the be all end all, not that it necessarily means anything. He could go on to have a good career the rest of it. But it's like, I don't actually know. Like I'm coming into this just assuming everything, but maybe they're not good in the defense. I don't know. I'm just starting to panic a little bit. But aside from that, I am confident. Like if you're asking my honest opinion, I think Jordan is a top 3 quarterback. I was asked very honestly on a show recently, like if you could start a franchise, who would you go with? And I said, there's Mahomes and Jordan, and I don't think I would take anybody over Jordan aside from Patrick Mahomes, and that's it. And I mean that. It's not just being biased. If you ask me about wide receiver, I'll give you a long list before we get to anybody on the Packers. Same with tight end, offensive line, etc. But when it comes to quarterback, that's where I'm at right now. And so when you look at that with Jordan and the confidence I have in our roster with Brian Gutekunst and the work he's done, the confidence I have in Matt LaFleur and his play calling, the hopefulness I have, at least in the roster that we have and knowing that they have the capability of being a good defense, confidence I have in the wide receivers and the tight ends and the offensive line even to some degree, because I know, it's not our ideal offensive line. We've certainly been blessed with elite offensive lines, and this is not one of them. But compared to some bad offensive lines, we don't have that. I have the utmost confidence. If we were playing the Ravens or the Chiefs today, I would feel like it's a 50-50 game. Anytime you get up against a Super Bowl contender, I look at it and go, it's a 50-50 game. That's true of the Lions, the 49ers, etc. Marginally better one way or another, but we're on that tier right now today. We can win that. And so it's not like, well, yeah, but we can't beat the bull crap. We did beat the Chiefs. We could beat anybody. It's a question of whether you're going to beat yourself or you're going to play the 49ers and lose, which is maybe the same thing. I might be repeating myself there. But, that's it. If the Packers can just do what the Packers do, and if they can be healthy, I think they're just going to freaking dominate. I just hope they don't get off to a slow start, and I don't think that they will. That's not to say they're going to beat the Eagles, because the Eagles potentially are a very good team. Again, I have no idea what the freaking Eagles are, but they seem to be getting off to a fast start. Jordan does not seem to be looking like he did last offseason, like I've said numerous times now. So I do hope for a faster start. I hope that we don't have to go through this period of misery like we've done the last 2 years where, we're talking about throwing in the towel and, with Rodgers in 2022 shooting for like a top 5 pick, and then all of a sudden they start getting dominant. And then in 2023, well, I guess, I was talking about possibly, man, maybe we can get Caleb. Like if things keep going this far south, we keep losing games. Who knows? Who's to say we can't end up being high enough that we end up getting Caleb Williams as our quarterback, and then Jordan goes off and is, the top quarterback, one of the top at least in the second half of the season. So, what was your question? Oh yeah, the two things that could possibly derail the Packers. My answer: the Packers and the 49ers, and that's it.
All righty. So I've crunched the numbers. I've looked at analytical stats.
Good job.
And stuff. And I've come to the conclusion that the best possible outcome for the Packers season, realistically speaking, because I would say 17-0, realistically speaking, for the regular season, the top that they can get, the best possible thing for them is 13-4.
Okay.
I think 13-4 is the best that they can do.
Sure.
It's rare to get a perfect season, and especially with 17 games, it's
right.
Probably damn near impossible.
Right.
And I think the way that the schedule's set up, there's some hard times. There's some hard opponents, but nothing astronomically crazy. If the Packers went up against the Ravens, I would say that they would have a hard time. One, because they've always had a hard time with mobile quarterbacks, and they have a hard time stopping the run. So when you have somebody like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry going back-to-back, you got that two-headed demon.
Yeah.
And I mean that in like the coolest rad way, because I think that's going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Two-headed demons are dope.
The Packers wouldn't stand a chance. But they're not playing anybody like that, and so I'm not too worried about it. But he's got 4 wins scattered. They're probably going to lose once or twice in the division. It always happens, even with a terrible team like the Bears and a terrible team like the Vikings. And I personally think flash in the pan Lions. It's always a rough bet when you're playing against the division, especially when you're in the division. When you're out of the division, beating the NFC North isn't anything special as it used to be. Now, with that being said, when you go into the worst possible outcome, like I said, I crunched the numbers, I did all the analytics, and I think the absolute worst that this team can do is 8-9, which would not be ideal, but it's not terrible. I mean,
that's everything went bad.
For somehow, there's a potential chance to make the playoffs with that number, as showcased by the amount of teams that were fighting for that spot last year. Now, I personally think that what they're going to do is they're going to go 12-5.
There we go.
That's where I have them going this year. What are your parameters for the worst case and the best case scenario? Love to hear it. Bye.
I mean, if we're talking record, I'm kind of on board with you. I feel like 8-9 is sort of the season that the Packers had last year, where it was an entire half of a season where everything was going wrong. And on top of that, even when things were going right, they had a mini 3-game series where it's like, oh, these are the easiest games you're going to see all year, and they flubbed it. So that was terrible what they did last year. And now, you would assume that it's unlikely that they would drop to that level again for as long as they did. And listen, we can get stupid and say, what if Jordan gets hurt? Yeah, okay, I can see a 4-win season or something if that happens. But, assuming like a normal range of injuries, not to the quarterback, yeah, I don't see. I mean, 9 wins feels like a floor to me, and that's the defense is a disaster, and a couple injuries mixed in, and the offensive line is really a struggle, and Jordan maybe isn't elite Jordan. He's like good sometimes, but inconsistent Jordan. And yeah, I mean the peak doesn't necessarily have a peak. I mean, I think there's sort of a range of good, and I think a lot of it comes down to some degree of luck, because even the best teams, you just drop one here and again. And the Packers do seem to be one of those teams that's, I don't know if it's a Matt LaFleur thing or what, they struggle to be very consistent. Though even if they're super elite, it's really hard, especially for the Packers. I mean, if you're the Chiefs or something, very consistently good. But especially what we've seen the last couple of years with the Packers, it's hard to imagine, even at their best consistently, that they aren't going to drop a handful. 1 or 2 to good teams, 1 maybe to a really bad team that you just shouldn't have lost to. Something to that degree. It's such a, again, a lot of these, I'm looking at, for the podcast for tomorrow, doing a lot of looking at the betting stuff. And I like that because it's more analytical and real. It's fun to play around in like the goofy nonsense that you see on YouTube and on NFL Network and all that stuff. But when you get down to the numbers, it's real. But it is funny when you look at the, I don't know, new to the terms, the proposed or the real percentage that they think a team is going to win essentially is inherent in the numbers that they give you. So if it says like minus 120 or something, they're saying, you got, I don't know, a 57% chance of winning the game essentially. The point is though, even like really bad teams, I don't know like what the biggest example would be, but you're looking at like a 30% chance or something. You go, oh man, that's ridiculous. That's 1 in 3, bro. It's not that crazy to think that that team would win. And we know that. You see that every single week. There are really good teams. There are really bad teams. There's a whole range. But really, I mean, every game to some degree comes down to a coin flip. It really does. I mean, obviously you take the Chiefs against the Panthers. It's not a coin flip, right? I mean, that might be 70-30 or something, maybe even more so. It might be 80-20. I don't know. But that whole any given Sunday thing is real. And so again, if you're talking undefeated, like you said, it's almost impossible, primarily because it's not even a skill thing. At some point, there's a range if you're a good team, and there's a range if you're a bad team that you fall into. But the coin flip thing is real. And yeah, it's hard to imagine getting much beyond 13. It's not a talent thing. I tell you right now that they're the best team in football if I wanted to. I don't know if they are, but I'd be comfortable saying that it's certainly a possibility. I still struggle to get past 13. It's possible, 14, 15, 16, whatever, but it's just hard to be that consistently good all the time. I mean, just look at the game we're coming into. Do I think the Packers are better than the Eagles? Yes. Do I think we're in an advantageous situation playing away at a neutral site in a very friendly stadium with the fans, presumably, with a team that really struggled catching them early when it's a brand new offensive and defensive system. They've been through a lot of stuff where the coach and the quarterback don't seem to get along very. Like this is perfect. Maybe they're going to become good and they'll get their footing again and everything. But week 1 is ideal. But it still feels at best like a 50-50 game to me. Because it is. It's a 50-50 game. And again, you look at the odds and it's like, oh, the frickin' Vegas has them as favorites. It's like 47-57%. I mean, Vegas has, their extra percentage so that they win money basically no matter what. But I mean, that's pretty much where it's at. It's like, call it 45-55 is essentially where Vegas has this game. It's not even worth mentioning who the favorite is because it's as close to 50-50 pretty much as you can get. So, all right, let's do one more. Because, again, we got a lot. And, yes, it's Thomas. Here we go.
All right, you got a question? I started this call chain with all right. Anyway, question is, what is it about football that causes people to be so invested, so ingrained? Like, when you're talking about other sports, like there are people who are baseball fans, basketball fans, hockey fans. Hockey fans are if you're into hockey, you're into hockey. And I've met a lot of people who are into baseball, but I also live in Missouri, so you get a lot of Cardinals fans, so there's history with it. But when you're talking to sports fans in general, the most passionate, the most involved, the most invested that I've seen throughout my time of living Earth and going to a ton of people's houses with my job and meeting people, football is the most, I guess, inclusive. Not inclusive, no.
No, that's not the word.
Like, I had words going into this and they dropped.
That's all right.
But I'm still going to push through.
You got it.
Football is the most true. I don't even. I'm trying to find the right word. I can't come up with it. Anyway, the fans, football, more so other sports. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that football elicits much stronger responses to week-to-week performances, week-to-week wins, losses? I think a little part of it is because you get such a limited amount of games compared to all the other sports that every win, every loss, it has a bigger impact on what a potential ending of the season looks like for your team. But at the same time, I wonder why people care so much about sports, why people are so gravitated towards football specifically. Because you have a whole entire podcast made specifically for the Packers. There's a ton of podcasts made specifically for football teams. Sorry, I don't have my phone on, hands-free. And, yeah, there's sports podcast for everything else, but like the passion that football elicits from people, it's inspiring. But I would like to get to the bottom of why this particular sport over the others. So there's a question from a rambling madman. Enjoy.
It's tough because I'm not. It'd be easier if I was like a baseball fan or a hockey fan or something, and I can kind of tap into why I'm more passionate about it. Maybe it's the certain fan base that's into football. I don't necessarily know. It's a much more physical thing. So, for example, would that be true? Probably not. I was going to say of like MMA fans. I don't know MMA fans. I feel like MMA fans are not fans. I guess there's no real teams. I mean, there kind of is, but not really. You can kind of be fans of a fighter, but it doesn't seem to be like the thing, whereas in football, it's about the teams. MMA feels more like an appreciation of the art of the sport and appreciating the people on top while they're on top and, all that kind of, it's very different. So I don't know if like violence plays a part in it in terms of like the aggressive nature of the, why people are so, now I can't find the words, aggressively connected to their teams. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it would be. I mean, it's an easier question to answer why are people the way that they are about sports than it is to answer why would football be more so. And again, I'm answering it not even knowing if that's necessarily the case. But I'm just kind of taking it at face value and trying to think through why that would be. I don't really know. I know football is a massive sport, and that may tie into it. I believe it's the number one sport. So there's more people, and it's so people tend to be more passionate about things that are better, that they like more, or whatever. If that makes any sense, probably not. I'm asking the robot for some help here. One of the thoughts is scarcity with games, which does make actually a lot of sense, right? If the Cardinals in baseball lose to the Brewers, it's 1 out of over 100 games. If the freaking Bears beat the Packers, it's devastating. It really is. It's like, it's so bad. So I think that's probably part of it. Otherwise, I don't really know why football would be more so. I think that actually makes the most sense to me is the scarcity of games. But, as far as why do people act like that for sports, like I've said, it's like a soap opera for dudes. But there is this weird innate thing in humans to want to be a part of something, to be a part of a group. And as much as I like to think that I'm not that way in general, I certainly am when it comes to the Packers. I mean, it becomes like a part of your family. It's a part of your identity. I'm a Packer fan as much as I'm an American, as much as I'm, whatever, a Wisconsinite or something, I mean, it's just the way it is. So yeah, if somebody comes at the Packers, it's not just this thing that I happen to enjoy. Like if somebody says they don't like pepperoni pizza, it's like, well, that's freaking stupid because it's delicious, That might be mildly offensive, but it's not like somebody saying, hey, your kid's ugly, which is not quite on the same level. But when people come up and say the Packers suck, it's kind of like, all right, bro, like you got some kind of a problem, I see, that needs to be fixed. So yeah, I don't know, man, but I appreciate it. I'm glad. I'm happy about it. Makes my life much more fun and miserable because yeah, losing is painful, dude. Especially when you're doing like live streams and then you have to talk about it on the podcast, and then it's a whole week before the next game, so it's just misery. And then you happen to have a call-in show where people call in and they're pissy about stuff and they're overreacting. And as much as you're pissed, you have to try to tell them to calm down, and then you feel like you're being biased. Because it's like, oh, it's not that bad. And it's like, well, now you just sound like a freaking hack, even though you are being correct. It's like, I hate everything about this. Can we just win all the games from now on? I don't know how to handle that crap. But it's a good time, man. It's the life of a football fan, I guess. All right, why don't we get out of here? I got to record the regular old podcast and then try to rip through. We got 14 more calls, so I'm going to have to be pretty call heavy tomorrow. So make sure you listen on tomorrow's podcast. Again, we're going to do a lot of calls tomorrow. I want to make sure we're caught up, more or less, is my goal. So All right. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.